Coming up next on Public Access TV is Fan to Fan, a half-hour sports interview show with host Dave Hornfischer. In this episode, we'll talk about the Metrowest YMCA. Stay tuned, this will run fast and might lift you up. Welcome to Fan, a sports interview show. I'm your host, Dave Hornfischer, and I'm pleased to welcome today the leaders of the Metrowest YMCA. Rick MacPherson, its president and CEO, Jeanne Sherlock, chief operating officer, and Tom Caron, a new board member and well known as a sportscaster and anchor at the New England Sports Network. Welcome to Fan. It's great to have you all here.
Thank you so much.
As this is a show whose purpose is to promote the wide variety of athletic and recreational sports activities in this area. And the YMCA is just the perfect vehicle for this. You know, as a kid who spent countless hours at the Torrington, Connecticut Y, I know firsthand what the Y meant to me. So kudos to you all for doing what you do. And let's get to the Y and Metrowest story. Rick, as the chief operating, no, you're the president.
That's
as
right.
The president, let's start with the president. As the president, tell me your Y story.
Geez, my Y story. As a kid, unlike you, I didn't grow up in the Y. It wasn't until I had my first job. I went to UMass Amherst. My first job was at the Malden YMCA, and I took that job in 1983. And I was hooked from the minute I walked in. As a sports guy like you, I think I love basketball, swimming pools, sports, camps, recreation, and having an opportunity to work for an organization that cares about health and fitness and all of that. From the minute I started, I was hooked, and I did a quick lap around Massachusetts. Started in Malden. I was out on the North Shore in Beverly, where I met my wife. Went from Beverly to Worcester, just west of Framingham, and was there for 16 years. Great experience. And then I found my way back to Framingham. I didn't get quite back to Brookline, where I grew up, but I got close. I was on my way. I think I'm stuck right here in Framingham now, though, and it's just been just a great place to work, and just a great community.
So as you said, that's almost a 40-year Y career.
Oh, don't even say it, but yes, it's true.
You started at 5, as I did when I was learning to swim.
Like I said, I was hooked,
Yeah.
and I'm not going anywhere at this point.
And Jeanne, you're the chief operating officer, and did I read that you're in your 10th year of doing this?
I am here in my 10th year at Metro West, but very similar to Rick, actually. My Y story is quite lengthy, although luckily I'm younger than he is, so it's not quite as long. But I grew up in Rhode Island, went to school, majored in physical education and health, and worked at the Y part-time, like many great YMCA directors do. And I loved this notion that kids and families were excited to be there, unlike when I was subbing in public schools for physical education, and was able to get my first job in the city of Worcester with this guy right here, actually. So worked with Rick in Worcester for a bit, and then moved to the Hockomock Y, and now I'm at Metro West. I live in Natick with my family, and so I'm a 30-year YMCA professional. I've never had another position, and really I would never even imagine doing anything else.
As the chief operating officer, you handle all the day-to-day stuff, whereas Rick takes care of the big picture stuff?
Yeah, I allow him to make the hard decisions.
Okay.
I'm known to...
And he likes you to make the really hard ones. Yeah.
You got that right.
So we have a team that works in operations around education and summer camp, and we have the outdoor center in Hopkinton. And
how big of a staff do you have?
So it spreads, right? So I have 5 people that are with me, and then underneath that, we're probably a staff of a total of about 175 people right now. So that's where we are and continuing to build.
So that's a job creator in Metro West.
I would say.
Yeah. And Tom, when they let you off of Nesson once in a while to have some real fun, huh?
Yeah, once in a while. Yeah.
So how did you get involved?
So I'm like you, Dave. I grew up in Lewiston, Maine, and going to the Y, learned to swim there, played a lot of basketball there. Remember them, which is interesting now, what we're going to talk about here, but remember that facility moving to a bigger, better facility and how great it was as a kid. You fast forward, we moved to Framingham 25 years ago, expecting our first son at the time, and a few years later, I'm traveling with the Red Sox. My wife's home alone with an 18-month-old and a 3-year-old, and the Y saved my marriage, because she could go work out and leave them in the family room. But my kids learned to swim there. They played their first soccer there. One's playing soccer in college now, and it all began at the Y. Sure. So I've helped with fundraising now for I don't know, 6 or 7 years,
Yeah,
the
I'd
event
say.
that we have every year, and kind of went to Rick and Jeanne and the crew and said, I'd like to get more involved because it's pretty clear, and I'm involved in a lot of charities around Massachusetts that really have been able to quantify the importance of recreation and athleticism and what kids do, getting engaged in those things, and the Y does all of that in every community, so why not help here?
And it's local.
And it's local. It's as local as it gets, which I absolutely love.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So why don't we go through a little bit about what the Y in Framingham is. We've got some images coming up that the Y put together for us, and let's start with the beginning here. This is the building. You got to find it. It's on Old Connecticut Path. And,
Well, I'll jump in here for a second. If you take a look at the image of that facility, it looks brand new, because it really is brand new. Pre-COVID, we did a $8 million capital improvement project there where we expanded the facility, updated every inch of the place. And so if you haven't seen it, it's really a great community resource. And as we go through the images here, you'll see some beautiful facilities that Jeanne will kind of talk us through.
okay, so let's get to the real gut of the matter, and what is it that the Y stands for, right?
You want to take this? All right.
Yeah, sure.
So we look at 3 areas at the YMCA. We talk about youth development, healthy living, social responsibility. In a way, if you think about youth development, everything that we do with kids is there, whether that's early learning programs or after-school programs or basketball, soccer, some of those pieces that we're talking about, where the goal is to create great kids and adults that will be contributors to their communities over time. Healthy living, of course, that's what many people think of with the YMCA. We do have fitness facilities there, but we're also very committed to helping folks get healthy and stay healthy with a lot of evidence-based health interventions around cancer survivorship and blood pressure management, diabetes prevention, things like that.
Okay.
And then, of course, the social responsibility arm, where we really believe strongly that everybody deserves an opportunity to participate in the Y. So we offer sliding scale fees for families so that everyone can access the Y. We'll talk a little bit later about some food security programs that we're running, as well as volunteer opportunities for folks to engage in as well.
And I would just add, it's really important to us on the social responsibility side is to be a great community partner, in Framingham and our service
We
area.
get to the image here of where you serve, and
Yeah, and so, Jeanne, maybe just briefly, you could speak to a couple of the partnerships that we're involved in Framingham.
Sure. So in the city of Framingham, we're actively engaged, of course, with the schools because we are serving many of the same constituents. So we work very closely with them. We're working in the area of Southeast Framingham, specifically with the Pelham Lifelong Learning Center, the Hoops and Homework program, also working with Voices of the Community as a partner organization. We're very closely tied to the local Board of Health to try to help with public health initiatives. Any big ones you think we missed there?
No, I think that
I mean, there's
speaks
so
to it.
many. But
That's right.
What I do find interesting is I was a little surprised, and Dave, you had said before you came on that map is more yellow than I think a lot of people would expect, right? I think a lot of people think Framingham Natick is what the Y serves, and
I've
obviously
called
it's
it the
a
Framingham Y.
Right, and it's a much bigger reach than that. And we learned that. I mean, our kids spent summers in Hopkinton at the Y camp. So that's where you really realize how many friends they made that weren't in Framingham who were being touched by the Y.
Right, our Framingham facility, now that, traffic has really picked up over the years, a little less during COVID right now, but population density has grown tremendously. And pre-COVID, our Framingham facility really was serving the communities of Sudbury, Wayland, and Natick, and Framingham, of course, the primary. And that's where most of our people came from. People from Hopkinton, Holliston, Ashland, it was getting to be a tougher trip into Framingham with the traffic and the density and all of that. So we'll talk about it later, but we have hopes of, in the town of Ashland, building a new regional YMCA to complement the one in Framingham down the road.
So I guess what drives all this though is the spirit of the Y itself, right? I mean that's what all your PR really directs itself to, that, and the energy that kind of surrounds it is. Which of you might like to talk to what does YMCA spirit kind of mean?
I'll jump to that a little bit, and I'll say the Y is a 501c3 charity organization. and it wouldn't be in existence without the support of the community. That's for sure. This Y was actually established back in 1960 when we really got into camping services at this YMCA and youth development programming. It wasn't until 1967, and people from Framingham will know this name, the Fitz family. Fitz
Oh,
Insurance.
sure, yes, of course.
Yeah, Arthur and George Fitz, back in the early 1960s, donated that piece of property to the YMCA so we could build 280 Old Connecticut Path. And so it's evolved over the years through charitable giving and donations and support of the community to be the YMCA that it is today.
What's the approximate size of the budget?
The total association budget in Metro West, that's family outdoor center, early education, schools out sites, and the Y is around $10 million.
Okay, all right, wow. And you got about how many members? Or
Jeanne, help.
is that kind of, I mean, am I asking you all too many
No,
technical
not at
questions
all.
here?
Not at
No, we
all.
I know you do.
We are closing in on about 7,000 members.
Really? Wow.
So total people, and then
Yeah.
there's a whole group of folks that that we serve as well in programs that may or may not be members at this point. But we certainly are a membership organization, and when you talk about Y spirit, I think some of that for me is about. I think the Y resonates community with people when they hear the Y, and as we think about that social connection and being able to be with people, I think the Y does that better than anybody. And there's no time like now for that.
Right.
Certainly with our kids, trying to bring
That's
our
true.
kids back to a place where they can be with friends and just be able to be kids again, right?
Yeah.
And the spirit of the Y is that it's for all. It's for everybody. It's for babies and middle schoolers, teenagers, seniors. It's for everybody, and it is a diverse place in every way. If you walk through the doors, I mean, you can hear 15, 20 languages being spoken, people of all shapes, colors, sizes. That's part of the spirit of
Well,
the
that
Y
is
as well.
Framingham. What did I hear? 75 languages in the high school. I think
That's
I heard
right.
once. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty amazing. So you touched on before about the expansion that you went through in the last several years. Want to we got a couple images of that.
Look at that swimming pool, huh?
Oh, look at that.
Gorgeous. You want to talk about the renovation or what's up there?
Yeah, well, why don't you kind of walk us through each
Sure.
slide, what happens in those places?
Yeah, so what you'll see there on the left side is our gymnasium, and when we think about the upgrades to the facility, for those basketball players out there or people who come in the summer, you'll be glad to know we are now air conditioned in the gymnasium. So it's a pretty active place for youth basketball leagues and adult basketball as well, and of course volleyball. Just it was invented at the Y, like basketball, and summer camps and gymnastics and the like.
I think I've seen pickleball in there, Jeanne.
There is some pickleball Thursday
Really?
afternoons.
Okay.
If you're looking for a place to play, we have open pickleball.
But you don't have a curling court, do you?
No curling court, but we'll keep that in mind, Dave, for next time.
Refrigeration gets high. I built a backyard rink for 13 years.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No hockey rink either.
Yeah, no.
And of course, that swimming pool, we can go just what's happened in that swimming pool over time. I mean, as we were out talking about renovation and meeting people, it's really unbelievable how many people in Metro West have learned to swim in that very box of water right there. So we've done a lot of renovation there, a lot of swimming lessons, competitive swimming happens there. We'll talk more about water safety later. And then on the right there, that's actually a new addition for us. It's a functional training space, just to as we think about group exercise and fitness trends, just having more open space and functional training opportunities as well.
Really popular with our younger members.
That's great. And then we got a couple other images here of
Just pretty
as part
pictures,
of the renovation,
right,
the locker room and the.
Yeah, so that just some nice verbiage on the walls, some wayfinding there. I mean, we've redone everything. So the floors are new, the paint is new. It's really worth a visit. It feels to me like we need to have let's try that again, because we completed this in February of 2020, and we're pretty promptly closed down a month later.
Yeah.
So
Exactly, it was heartbreaking. We were just ready to,
I know,
have ribbon cuttings and some ceremonies and bring people in to see what we had done,
Right.
and then we had to shut it down,
Ooh,
literally
I
for
know.
4 months.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it'll last longer.
It's really new.
Still brand new. But to go move to a different thing is I don't know whether I'd use the word surprise, but I was interested to learn of the efforts that you do with food insecurity as a major effort here. I think of the Salvation Army, and I think of some other programs like that. But for you guys, and it fits with all of what you've been talking about your population and all that. So why don't you run us through a little bit of what that's all about?
Yeah, sure. This has become an important part of our service to the community, and Jeanne has really been our champion of this initiative over the past several years. So take it away, Jeanne.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much irony here in just the way that things happen, right? I mean, we talked about healthy living and how important that work is to us, and of course, healthy food is part of that. So we've been working in food for quite some time, feeding our own kids in our camps and in our programs, and making sure that we're offering healthy alternatives and educating them. And then, when the pandemic arrived, of course, that changed the opportunity. As part of our renovation, we built a production kitchen so we could feed our early learning center kids. But little did we know that, overnight we'd be going from 100 meals a day to 1,000 meals a day out of that kitchen. We took over Rick's conference room and, added a sort of an annex kitchen off of the kitchen so we could pack meals. But we are, we work with the USDA under reimbursable meal programs, and we're really able to, when the schools shut down, there are thousands of kids in this Metro West area that qualify for free or reduced lunch, and no school, no lunch.
Do you do anything with nutrition and dieting programs?
We do. We do. We actually hired our first registered dietitian probably about 3 years ago now. Again, timing is everything. So that work will just continue for us. So now we're feeding the Pelham kids and the Hoops kids and our camp kids, and continuing to try to find spaces in the community where we can continue to build trust and do that work. So that has really become a really important thing for us, and we've been honored to do it.
And I think that was, for me, one of the biggest surprises. Like, I didn't know that was going on.
Yeah.
The whole time we were Y parents, and we're talking about a long, 10 years or so. Like, our kids were doing the vacation programs and the summer programs and the athletic programs and, gym and swim, right? We were working out and the kids were learning to swim, and we thought that was the why. And you start learning about the incredible impact they're having on young kids who would not be able to find a meal. It's really incredible what they're doing. And that was the linchpin for me to get more involved.
And because that is kind of what gets you ready to exercise. If you're not eating right and eating at all, you probably, you're not going to be able to build yourself up. So
that's right.
Yeah, it really is. So let's just move back. Well, let's close out here with a couple of slides on swimming, which is what I think a lot of people, at least me, when I first thought of the Y. I think I learned to swim there when I was 7. I never got too far beyond that.
See
but
what I'm saying?
You said the same thing. So talk about the different kinds of swimming lessons you have.
Yeah, so I'm going to take this one if I can. So only because this becomes a very serious conversation when we start talking about swimming and swimming lessons and access and equity around swimming.
Yes.
Because our kids, whether we want to admit this or not, our kids are struggling out there with this. The drowning is the leading cause of death outside of motor vehicle accidents for kids ages 5 to 14. And the crazy notion of that is that it is not 100%, but pretty preventable, right? If we can get swimming lessons out to kids that maybe otherwise can't access them, we will be in a much better place. In the state of Massachusetts, actually, over the last 4 years, the number just keeps climbing of how many kids we're losing locally. And there's just so we have always had a commitment to swimming. Again, that's not a surprise for folks.
No. But now it's swim safety.
But now it's really about swim safety and trying to focus on our communities and those folks who we know through trends and research are more likely to find themselves in some trouble. So we are, the auction this past year was raising money for swim safety, and we're working with our partners in the community and trying to figure out how do we get every kid access to life-saving swim programs. And we are feeling pretty good about our plans to make that happen, but it is it's a problem, and
it's
it's
important in
preventable.
Framingham. We have so many lakes.
Yeah.
Underutilized, unfortunately, but they could. Do you make any connection with the Park and Rec Department when there are different swim programs that they have with all of the
So
lakes
this
we have
is
on
part of our process right now to say, because what we do know is the ponds, and there are only a few pools around the Framingham area. So if we really want to get serious about making sure our kids know how to swim, it will take all of us. So partnering with Parks and Recreation, even Suburban Child or Keefe Tech, right, where these facilities exist to make sure that we can get out there for folks is going to be super important. So. For sure.
Well, this has been a great way to get through all of what you do, and I suspect these 11 pictures that we've put up there only touch the top of the pool, maybe. But so what, looking ahead now, you touched on a couple of things about a place maybe in Ashland, some other kinds of programs. Why don't we take a minute or two just to talk about some of what you see as the challenges ahead in your different roles, just in the top item on your list, anyway.
Well, top of mind for me at the moment is we know that to really deliver on the programs and services to our entire service area, we need more of a presence serving Ashland, Hopkinton, Holliston, South Framingham. And to do that, a new facility is really what we need to make happen for our community. So we have gone out, and we just 2 years ago, before COVID, we were out meeting with people from the community, and we were able to secure a 12-acre piece of property donated for this new facility in Ashland. It's right on Route 135, on the marathon route in Ashland, not far from Hopkinton. And so we've got plans, and we're getting ready to, we're preparing for a feasibility study right now, and Tom is working with us on the committee that's preparing us for that.
Yeah, I think, I use, excuse me, my example and our family's example. You had that map before. We lived right by the Heart, which was right by the Metro West Y, right? We went all the time.
Yeah.
And then we moved to one of the dots you had over by Ashland. And after about 2 years, we stopped going to the Y. It was, Route 9 has gotten a little tougher and tougher all the time, right? Like every other road, it seems, in Massachusetts. And, I put myself back when our kids were younger. If we lived in the part of Framingham, even I live now, and we have a lot of friends in Ashland and Hopkinton and Southborough and parts of South Framingham that have a tough time getting to the current facility. If you had another facility that would A, open up a little more option for those people, and B, maybe ease the congestion a little bit on the one that's there now. Back to Jeanne's point, right? Whether you want to talk about swimming or any of the other programs, you're going to be able to take those programs to more people, and that's a great goal.
Well, with all those towns, I mean, each one of them could make a case why they should have their own Y, I'm sure. And then you get right down to the basics of it. So how does one go about joining the YMCA?
So we are continuing to work towards digital optimization. You can go right to the website, join now.
And the website is?
MetrowestYMCA.org.
All one word, METROWESTYMCA.org. I always like to spell it out. We'll put it in the credits here.
And of course, we want to make sure we invite people to visit. Come see it, and we
but
can
with
show
all
you
these
around.
challenges now, that's going to take some Benjamins, as they say. And so how does one get involved in becoming a supporter? Become a board member is
Become a board member is one way,
It's one way.
But then they still want Benjamins. So, that's all good.
But that becomes your job now,
Yes,
right?
because my job to ask you to spread that along.
That's right.
So, Tom, we just kicked off our annual campaign. Maybe you can share a little bit about what happened Monday night.
Yeah, we had a phenomenal meeting Monday night to kick off the annual campaign. And what I loved being invited to be on this board is literally 100% of the board supports the Y financially. So
How big is the board anyway, just to jump?
They got one bigger. I don't know.
You have a dozen?
So we have an association board that's made up of 23 board members, and then we have 3 community boards with about 10 on each, so 30 up to 50. And then we call our board advisory council of kind of retired board members of another 20.
A lot of ways to be involved. And so I kind of interrupted you when you were
Well, but I
talking
mean,
about,
obviously, and Jeanne could talk about volunteering,
Yes,
which I think is the grassroots, right, on
Right.
the other end of it. But getting involved, the annual auction is how I got involved, right? Volunteering to help our annual auction to raise the money. And at that point, I was just helping out because I thought it was a great idea. Raise money for the Y. Why wouldn't you do that?
Right.
And then now the next step for me is to get more involved on the structural side of it. But there's so many other ways to get
So
involved.
many other ways. I mean, I don't know, where anybody a coach at the Y, right? We've got youth sports coaches involved, so program volunteers, obviously policy volunteers, and donating and getting involved in our food security work or our swimming work or any of that that's motivating to someone. We have opportunities for all.
You're talking to people like me. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm all of a sudden thinking, why am I not more involved?
Oh, don't worry, we're not leaving without
Well, you know,
getting
heard
you
him say
signed
I
up.
regret
I heard
this.
him.
Congratulations. I think I said that at one point. You know, I coach soccer at the
Yeah,
Y back
well, I
then
know.
with my kids, right? If you're gonna go, I always said, if you're gonna go stand around and watch your kids play, you might as well see if they
Might
know.
as well.
That's right, I know. Next thing I want to have your basketball teams on here or something.
Yeah,
to,
that'd be great.
To
They'd
cover
love
this
that.
up. Well, is there anything that we didn't touch on? What are some of the challenges that you're facing there, Jeanne? I didn't give you a chance to talk
Yeah,
about
no, that's okay. I
challenges.
think for us, you know, not unlike lots of people, we're trying to continue to staff our programs with really great quality young people that that can work with our kids. You know, we also are trying to. We have an outdoor center in Hopkinton where I think Tom's kids went to camp there, mine too, and you know that's a beautiful 120-acre outdoor facility. So we're right now being challenged with program development, which is an awesome thing for us to get more people outside. People are very. COVID has done that for us. What a wonderful thing, right? Get outside. It's healthier out there.
Right.
So continuing to try to find to match programs with where people are at, right? Where are they? Mentally and preparing for, we know that we've got people that need to get back into physical shape because we've been inside for a long time and maybe they haven't ventured out. So we're just continuing to staff and make more programs available for our people.
And there's a lot of issues right now with what kids are going through, all the social, emotional stuff. And so that's what we do is take care of kids, and they're struggling right now. So it's going to be a
Exercise.
challenge.
Get your body moving.
Yeah.
And learn to play again.
Yeah.
Like, there's been so many
Yeah.
stories
Yeah.
in the news, right? The lack of civility.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it
Yeah.
starts in the adults. I'm not blaming the kids, okay? But I mean, you know, I just went through it with the Hall of Fame voting. I had sports writers screaming at each other, okay? But kids have been isolated. We all have, right? But kids have been isolated, and now you see what's happening on school buses and in schools. And what I love about the Y is, you know, when we were kids, we just went out and played. You know, you didn't always have to have a shiny
Yeah,
new uniform and everything. You know, you just went out and
Yeah.
picked teams and played. And I think you get to do that at the Y. You get to come together and learn to deal
Well,
with each other.
unfortunately, our clock has run out, but that's a great way to wrap this up. And I can only say there's only one thing that we should all do.
All right.
And we just should all go to the
YMCA.
I'm glad we're not singing.
Okay. Well, all you folks out there in TV land, come on back and watch Fan to Fan. We're on 4 nights a week in Framingham on cable TV, and we're also on YouTube. But more important, get your body down to the Y and get some good exercise. And you know, maybe you can even open up a checkbook now and then, and at least pay for a membership or support one of these great ideas that they have. This has been a lot of fun, and thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
David. Thank you, David.
Thank you.